Okay, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the 26th day of July, 2022. It's 63 degrees and very cloudy. Another hazy shade of winter day here at Site B. And I have a big red dot on my nose from where the dog ran into my face over the weekend. Yes! Big Great Dane of my parents is a little overexuberant when it sees me. Tomorrow is Gary Gygax Day. It's Gary Gygax's birthday, which of course has inevitably led once again to the argument over Gary's legacy between this and this. And not surprisingly, the Gary Gygax cultists are now latching onto the D&D movie, claiming it's going to be bigger than Star Wars, more world-influencing than Star Wars or the MCU, make more money than Avatar, simply because it's a Dungeons & Dragons movie that Gary Gygax worked on, and it carries on Gary Gygax's legacy. And thanks to the Dungeons & Dragons movie, the name Gary Gygax will be on everybody's lips. Because Gary Gygax, wrote the Dungeons & Dragons movie. So, in honor of Gary Gygax's movie, and in honor of my unending sarcasm and level of utter, disbelief at these people who seem to continue to think that the spirit of Gary Gygax has come down from the heavens of gaming and handed them this golden, what was it they referred to as the 3 golden manuscripts that nobody else knows of, other than these small group of individuals who claim that they're doing everything in Gary's name and how 5e is Gary's legacy and all this other stuff about Gygax and all the stuff Gary did. So let's just first remind everybody that Gary Gygax passed away on March 4th in 2008 at the age of 69 in his home of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So, the chances that he worked on this are very slim, as this did not even go into production until around 2013. Also, Wizards of the Coast has made it repeatedly clear on multiple occasions that at no point in time did Gary Gygax ever work for them. In fact, there's no documentation of Gary Gygax ever being in the offices of Wizards of the Coast. And they have gone out of their way to make sure we all know that 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons has nothing to do with the legacy of Gary Gygax. Once again, Gary Gygax did not work on this because he's dead. As for the Dungeons & Dragons movie that's coming out, Honor Amongst Thieves, did Gary Gygax work on that? Honor Amongst Thieves. Internet movie database. All right. So, yeah, let's see. Nope, that's not giving us what we want. Apparently there's a lot of movie with the name Honor Amongst Thieves. Perhaps hindsight being 2020, they should have come up with a different name. All right, so the writers for Honor Amongst Thieves are Michael Gallio, John Francis DeLay, Chris McKay. So I do give credit to Gygax for creating the game in the IMBD, but as for writing the movie, he did not direct it. He did not write the screenplay. He did not write the story. Other than if you go deep into the IMDb, it does say Gary Gygax, it lists Arnson first as the creator of Dungeons & Dragons and Gary Gygax second as the creator of Dungeons & Dragons. But then, of course, it also gives, references to Chris Perkins, Jeremy Crawford. But as for writing the script, Jonathan Francis Daley. So, no, Gary Gygax did not write the script for Dungeons & Dragons, the movie. He is not in Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves, much like, they do with Stan Lee in the MCU, because, once again, Gary Gygax passed away in 2004. Now, did Gary Gygax work on Player's Handbook, D&D 5th edition? Is this Gary Gygax's legacy? Well, let's see. Introduction. Preface. Gygax, 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 Gygax. No. Introduction. Gygax. Nope. No. Worlds of Adventure. Gygax. No. Appendix. No. They do cut and paste the Appendix N. They quote Gary Gygax from the 1979 Dungeon Master's Guide about, the suggested readings, and then they list a bunch of books that are, some of which are from these suggested readings. So there is at least one mention of Gygax. Now let's look at the credits for 5th edition. Credits: lead designer, Mike Merles, Jeremy Crawford. Player's Handbook lead, Jeremy Crawford. Rules development, Rodney Thompson, Peter Lee. Writing, James Wyatt, Robert J. Schwab, Bruce Cordial. Editing, Michael Carter, Chris Sims, Scott Fitzgerald, Gary Christopher Perkins. Art director, interior illustrators, additional contributors, Kim, Matt, Chris, Tom, Richard, Miranda, Jennifer, Steve, Nina, Steve, Chris, Ben, Tom. Brand and marketing, no mention of Gygax. Drawing from further development, Monty Cook, Zach Sabbath. Yep, no mention of Gygax. Oh, based on the original game created by Dave Arneson, Brian Bloom, Rob Kearns, James Ward, Don Kay, and E. Gary Gygax. So it is based upon Dungeons and Dragons. But as for dedication, as for any actual work, as for writing, no. Now let's go to this one. Now, we do repeatedly say that if there's any game that is Gary Gygax's legacy, it's Castles and Crusades, because Gygax actually did work on this. It was one of the last projects he worked on before he passed away. Both Gary Gygax and Luke Gygax are on record as saying this is like Gygax's legacy. This is the book that he wrote that he feels is closest to what he wanted to happen with Dungeons and Dragons after Advanced D&D. Gary Gygax has said this is his legacy. Luke Gygax has said is his legacy. Let's look at the table of contents. All right. Written by Dave Chestnut and Matt Golden. Contributors: Casey, John, Mike, Colin, Kenneth, William, Derek, Cremasso, Brian, Jack. Yeah, no name. Gygax is not mentioned anywhere in the credits. He is mentioned in the acknowledgement. First and foremost, we'd like to thank E. Gary Gygax for sharing his wonderful vision with the rest of us. Without it, none would have followed. Our hats off to you, good sir. So, and he's also in the special thanks. So, yes. They do actually credit him in this. This one simply says, oh yeah, he made a game that we bought, and yeah, so thanks for coming up with the name Dungeons & Dragons, which, by the way, we owed. At no point in time has Wizards of the Coast ever said that this is his legacy. In fact, Wizards of the Coast has gone out of their way to erase anything Gygax has to do with Dungeons & Dragons. Castles and Crusades has gone on record saying this is Gary Gygax's legacy. Luke Gygax has gone on record as saying this is Gary Gygax's legacy. Gary Gygax has gone on record saying this is Gygax's legacy. At no point in time did Gary Gygax ever work on this. At no point in time did Gary Gygax ever work on anything Wizards of the Coast has produced. And just to end any level of discussion regarding D&D Honor Amongst Thieves, which, Honor Amongst Thieves is a kind of a bad name because there's like 80 other movies named Honor Amongst Thieves. Gary Gygax did not write, produce, direct, or have anything to do with Honor Amongst Thieves, Dungeons & Dragons movie starring Chris Pine because he's dead. Let me just remind you all, he's dead. So unless you possess some mystical power that his spirit comes down and actually speaks to you in your dreams, you're not speaking in Gary Gygax's name. And so hopefully this resolves any confusion. I know it's hard to understand where Gygax ends in his relation to Dungeons and Dragons because, he is so closely connected to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and Basic Dungeons and Dragons. But, once TSR was sold off to Wizards of the Coast, Gygax had nothing to do. He had moved on. D&D was done as far as he's concerned. There was other projects he's worked on. He wanted people to embrace other games. He goes on record saying multiple times, it's thousands of people's games now. They're doing what they want with it. I want people to play games. I want people to play other games. I want gamers to get together and stop arguing. So stop arguing. This is not his legacy. This might be his legacy. But really, if we're talking worldwide, what's the most popular game in the world? Call of Cthulhu. And he didn't work on the movie. So, I don't know why this is a thing. The guy's dead. Let him rest in peace. He brought the game out into the public. He threw it out there. He seeded the world and said, here, take this game and do with it what you want. I don't care. It's everybody's game. And then he moved on and did other things, from great products like, Gaxmore and City of Baracus and Necro City, whatever it's called, to not so great things like Cyborg Commander. But he wanted people to play other games. He played other games. He's even said there were other games before D&D. This was just what I took from Dave and ran with, He Thomas Edison, David Annison, and the others. Speaking of the others, apparently TSR 3.5 is in trouble again. That will be the topic of a different vlog. So, yes, I know it's confusing, and I know there are individuals out there that grasp onto the Gygax name and try and carry it as some almost religious banner, even though, the 10 Commandments say thou shalt not worship brazen idols or accept any other god other than me. And they do this to make themselves feel relevant. They do this to say, as we've gone over hundreds of times, you're not playing my game my way, so you are wrong. You're a horrible human being. You're not playing my game my way because Gary Gygax told me this is the way the game needs to be played. And they hold on to this because they have nothing else. And the more you try and say, no, dude, you're completely wrong, let it go. Can we just move on? This is a pointless topic. Gygax is dead. He's been dead for a long time. He didn't work on 5th edition. He didn't work on the movie. His last thing was Castles and Crusades. That's documented. He has said repeatedly, documented, play other games. There's no right way to play D&D. Take it and do what you want. So just stop. Let's just move on to arguing about, something else, like whether druids can have red hair or not. It's easy to lock on to that Gygax, and but he's really, the movie is not going to be as influential as Star Wars. It's not even going to be as influential as the MCU. It's definitely not going to make as much money as Avatar or Snow White or Disney. So, it'll most likely be a flop. But it might make some movie money, but not Disney level money. Certainly, it's not going to be more socially impactful than Star Wars. Yeah, no, that's not happening. Anyways, I guess my point is Gary Gygax is dead. Let him rest in peace. He didn't work on the movie. He didn't work on the game. Stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it. It's a pointless argument that continues to fracture the hobby, and the more you present these individuals with proof they're wrong, the more they just encamp themselves in their smaller and smaller fort, and they know they're wrong. They know it's not true, but they feel the need to defend themselves because they don't want to admit they're wrong. Unless, of course, they're right, and the ghost of Gary Gygax did come down and talk to them and present them with these 3 golden monograms and these staffs of oracralum and the secret knowledge that nobody else knows about, even though both his children and his ex-wife have said, you're wrong, this never happened, that's not what he wanted. But whatever, okay? Moving on. Tomorrow is Gary Gygax's birthday. I'm sure, we will talk about founders and legends happening tomorrow and how the fact none of those people are legends are really founders, but whatever. We are discovering more and more of these celebrity gamers actually have never played D&D. We do know that several of the creators of Radiant Citadel never played D&D. Yeah, so that's out there. I don't know what the point of this is, other than this is just really frustrating to keep seeing this argument, and there's more important things to argue about. And if you really want to respect Gygax's legacy, it's this. If you really want to play the best version of Wizards of the Coast Dungeons & Dragons of the 3 they've made, it's this. If you want to play the best version of D&D that really captures the feel of what D&D should be in 2022, it's probably neither of these. But whatever. I don't know. Don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. This is just my 2 cents. I'm the OG GM. I'll talk to you later. Get off my land. Blah-de, blah-de, blah-de. Gary Gygax.